The next application on the planning board agenda, for which it seems several of you have come down this evening, is that of GRB Development Inc., otherwise known as the Riverwalk Phase 2, seeks minor division. Yes, minor division with proposed lot 1, condo number 3, lot 2, condo number 4, proposed lot number 3 to be dedicated to the village of Patchogue for park purposes, and proposed lot number 4 to be dedicated to the village of Patchogue for purposes of a pump station. Subject premises are located both in the G2 and in the industrial zone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Rachel Shelto, 6 Sylvan Ballin, 100 Motor Parkway, Patchogue, New York, for the applicant, GRB Development, Inc.
I see that you've submitted your mailings, and obviously the people are here tonight, so they've gotten their mailings. So why don't you tell us all about what you guys are proposing?
Sure. I am here tonight regarding a minor subdivision application relating to the Riverwalk Phase 2. The subject property, Mr. Chairman, is located at the southwest corner of West Avenue and South Street. Suffolk County tax map numbers for Phase 2 are Section 13, Block 2, Lots 25.1, 25.2, and 25.3. The property is 7.889 acres. This is part of the Riverwalk development, Phase 2 of the Riverwalk development. I have a map that I have color-coded in the interest of making things simple, because the map has a ton of easements depicted on it. It's a little confusing to see the property lot lines, so I think this is helpful. So lot 1 is in yellow. That phase is complete. That is the condo Phase 3, Section 3, excuse me. That's lot 1 of the subdivision. Lot 2 is condo number 4, that is shown in pink. That phase is substantially complete, but for interior selections of finishes, so it's basically completed as well. Lot 3, shown in green, is the parcel to be dedicated to the village for park purposes. At this time, Lot 3 includes the pump station parcel, which is also to be dedicated to the village of Patchogue, and that's indicated in red. It is this small 0.03 acre parcel that is to be dedicated to the village. So right now it is 1, 2, 3 lots, which includes this.
But as per this application, the pump station is being proposed to be lot number 4.
Correct, correct, and I was just going to get into that, sir. So the pump station lot is not separate from the parkway and recreation lot at this time. Now that construction is complete, near completion, subdividing the parcels and deeding the 2 lots to the village would occur at this time, and that is the park and the pump station parcel. The covenants and restrictions previously filed in connection with this project on the prior approval of this board, actually, the site plan approval back in 2011, there was a covenant number 5, which stated, the declarant shall design and construct the pump station on South Street to the specifications of the village's sanitary engineers and dedicate same to the village. The pump station shall be designed in accordance with the requirements of the 10 state standards, latest requirements of the NFPA, and be approved by Suffolk County Department of Health Services. The pump station and such immediately surrounding property will be separately subdivided by the declarant and deeded to the village separate and apart from any adjoining public or open areas. So it was a requirement of this very board that this application be made and this subdivision be brought before you. I have copies of those CNRs for the board, if I may submit them for the record. The paragraph I'm talking about is highlighted in yellow, and it's a couple pages back. Those covenants and restrictions for the record are recorded at Library D 000-12662, page 562, and they were filed in connection with the Planning Board's approval dated November 17, 2010. I have provided a copy for the board for the record. I have another copy of the document for you. This is the certification of the pump station. Basically, it is a letter from H2M Architects and Engineers to John Songen Suffolk County Department of Health Services, and attached to his letter, he certifies the constructed works by the design professional. So I just wanted to submit a copy of that, that it was built according to all the specifications and requirements. I thought that was important for the record.
Absolutely, thank you for that.
You're welcome. My client also had also had a conference call with the head of the village's DPW today, just to review this with him, and that everything was built according to village specifications and the requirements. And he, in fact, I believe, reached out to forward us that document. So we did have a talk. We did speak with him today, just to verify that there was no issues and everything was built in accordance with the requirements. As to why this did not occur previously, which was the first thing I asked my clients, being that, you know, everything has pretty much already happened here, right? The change of zone was already done before the village board. Site plan review already occurred in 2010, 2011 timeframes. And the answer was that the village did not want to take the parcels and take over the liability of owning the parcels during the construction. That's why the dedications have not occurred. The parcels are all still in the applicant's name. So we are really here tonight, not for any change to this project. The pump station parcel is not being enlarged in any way. Nothing is being changed. The development is not being changed. This is a subdivision to sort of complete this administratively with the village. It's not really a change to that beautiful project that is out there that I saw earlier this evening. So I just want to make that really clear for the record that there's really nothing happening other than the changing of these lines. And it's really all to accomplish what was previously discussed and agreed to with the village at prior board meetings when this project was being proposed before this point. That is all I have on my direct presentation. I know there are some neighbors here. I got to show them my color-coded map and discuss with them a little bit. And I think they have some concerns that they'd like to express to you.
Sure. My question, this plan, the site plan review of this goes back 5 or 6 years, and looking around, I think there are a lot of different faces on this board at that time. And I gotta be honest, my memory is not what it used to be. I'm very familiar with the original concept of the Riverwalk. My brother had a large hand in the original plan of the first one. Could you explain to us, I mean, I haven't really been on the site other than watching it from traveling down Clare Rose Boulevard. In the deeding over of that land for who's developing the Riverwalk? Has it been developed already? Have you?
No, it's vacant property.
So nothing really has been done there at all?
That's my understanding, and I was there today, and it verifies my understanding that it's vacant property. It's being deeded over to the village for the development. That's my understanding.
I'm not even sure if that was really clear years ago. So no land's been cleared. The river area, which is overgrown, it's really not been.
I agree with you in the sense that it seems like it's all in its natural state, having been there earlier today.
All right, so that's going to be, then I guess the understanding is that's going to be left to the purview of the village's Department of Parks and Recreation?
That is my understanding, sir.
Council informs me that the DEC, state DEC is on board. They're aware of the point at which we now find ourselves, and there's been some DEC approved work done, I guess, along that river corridor, so they're also going to obviously have some input on this.
Absolutely.
Other questions from members of the board here?
I do have a question, and this might be answered in conjunction with the village. Will this be open access to where all of the condominiums are? Or will there be a fence? Or how will, we're subdividing it, will there be an actual barrier between people wandering onto the private property versus the parkland?
Well, I am new to the project in that I've been working on it for the last 6 months or so. But what I did was I looked back at all the prior approvals and the prior conditions and restrictions and easements that were filed in connection with the previous approvals of previous times that the applicant appeared before the board to become as familiar as I could. And I'm thinking back to all those documents that I reviewed in our very, very, very large file, and I do not recall seeing anything with respect to a fence. But if the village were to be taking over that parcel, right, because this started out as a larger development, it was supposed to be 200 plus units, and that got reduced during the seeker review process and the review by this board as well as by the village board. So the project got scaled back and made more dense of a project in order to preserve this land. So the idea being that that's going to the village for park purposes, and I would assume that the village is going to be able to put up a fence and do whatever it chooses to do with respect to the development of the park.
My understanding initially was that those serpentine paths that are designed to sort of open up the site, that they were, I mean, again, 6 years ago, that the idea there was to sort of invite folks into the site to the Riverwalk area. The original design called for it, but again, it's going to be a completely new project. The original design called for an access to the so-called Riverwalk from the north, off of West Main Street, and there was actually going to be a little parking area there for people to be able to get in that way, so they'd have to cut through the Riverwalk condo facility. But of course, that's going to all be subject to design by who's ever going to be involved.
Yes. That would be my understanding.
Has there been, I'm reading this covenant and restrictions that you provided, and I see under number 11, it states that the declarant shall dedicate to the village an approximately 75-foot river walk as depicted on the site plan, and that the declarant shall construct and maintain the river walk to village specifications. Do you know if any of that has been done?
I'm not sure what exactly that is referring to in the sense of if it's talking about the dedication of the property itself that's adjacent to the river and this lot that we're pointing out. Because if you see 75 feet, you know, this dimension is approximately 79 feet here. So I'm just not sure, you know, what exactly that's referring to, and I'm not clear as to whether that's not just referring to this property, the park itself.
Wouldn't you feel that approximately 75 feet does equate to 79 feet?
So that's what I'm saying.
Around it, yeah.
That's why I think that's actually referring to that whole piece.
That is the area.
Yeah.
Question. There were certain improvements to the building on that side.
That would be my understanding, that that was an earlier resolution, right, during the beginning of the process that came, that brought those out. So I mean, that to me is how they're describing this piece.
So has this river walk been constructed to village specifications?
No.
There's nothing constructed?
No, it's vacant, it's vacant.
I think this gets back to my original question, which was asked purely out of a sense of 6 years have gone by, and having sat on this board this time, it was my recollection that the applicant was going to be actively involved with the design and construction of the Riverwalk. It was not going to be sort of handed over to the village as a vacant piece of property. So obviously we're going to need to iron this out and figure out where we are. I imagine, well, maybe not, maybe other people don't agree with me, but it would be a crying shame for the named part of the actual project to never be completed as I think it was designed to be. So I think it's incumbent upon all of us to do this properly.
And I'm happy to go back to my client and verify where they are at with that. My understanding is they intend to comply with all the requirements of the board.
And of course, we're aware, obviously, that the
These are
state DEC is
recorded.
going to be involved with this.
And
Any
these are all-
improvements along the river, we're
And-
talking bulkheading, anything like that, certainly the DEC is going to have a state.
Absolutely, and these are recorded CNRs that they would have to comply with, so they're gonna have to comply with all of them. As I stated at the beginning of the hearing, you know, these lots exist now, so, you know, this is an existing parcel, this is an existing parcel, and this, with the pump station, is an existing parcel. So the basis of this specific application was very limited in scope. And so you have to kind of bear with me on
Oh, no, that's
that. That this,
I understand.
you know, the purpose was addressing this issue, where to start to get to the next step, now the construction is completed, that this piece needs to be separated out from the parcel.
I am concerned also not only with the fencing issue or just, I'm coming at it from a different perspective. I was on the zoning board, so I saw a slightly different application for this. So we all have very different memories. I am concerned about access because in the covenant it does say, oh no, I'm sorry. It actually doesn't really discuss access, just that we have to, that they have to give access. I'm not really sure where that's going to go because, as I'm sure many of these people here, they don't want people walking, you know, across their grass. And I understand that, and I'm not really seeing, I can't see the DEC allowing the construction of an asphalt lot right next to the river, or our river. So I am concerned about public access because it's going, when it's done, it will be beautiful. People are going to want to use that space. So what's the least intrusive way that we can get access to here?
Well, I understand your concern, and I think that it requires me to speak further with my client as well as go back into the records. And like I said, I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage in being new to the project. So I wasn't here at those hearings in 2010, 2011. And if I was, who knows if I'd even remember.
And I was at a different hearing, so I totally get that.
Well,
Richard, it does show on this subdivision plan that you did provide, right on the property line in between the pink and the yellow, it shows the public access walk easement from West Avenue, right through the middle, you know, right through condos.
to the middle and the between
And then
the two,
to access
yes.
that space down there.
Yes.
All
Oh,
down.
it says point at the beginning?
It's the notes of public access walk easement,
Okay.
right down the center, West Avenue down into the park area.
Which is that the pathway that sort of bisects the property, which is a break to?
Yeah, it probably lines up with like the street where it comes through the immediate.
That was my understanding.
And that's where, by memory, it seems to be. Yeah.
Well, I think the point of all this is we're not going to design the Riverwalk tonight at this hearing, certainly. There was, going back a little further, there was a Riverwalk actually with many public hearings. It was designed, it was actually approved by the DEC. I gave, when this project first started, I gave the actual plan of that to the developer. So he had that. I said, obviously you guys can, you don't have to use this, but here, instead of reinventing the wheel, here is what was approved, designed after all public input, and you can use this as a template to start from. All these questions that we're bandying about, they were already asked and at least answered initially to several people's satisfaction. So I think being that the understanding from the start was on this board that this project was going to go from east to west, and the Riverwalk was going to be the last piece of the puzzle. And it sounds like we're almost at that point. And again, it would be a shame to drop that ball, I think, for everyone involved, including, I would assume, for the residents, for whom this could be a wonderful bit of green space. So we'll dig into our records, talk to the applicant, the developer, and we'll certainly get this right. Anybody here have a question at this point on this application? and bear with us, we have, I would say the majority of this forum is probably not sitting when this application was heard 5-6 years ago. At this point, members of the public who have some input, some questions, things to say, can come forward one at a time in an orderly manner and state your name and address for the record and let us know what's on your minds.
Hi, my name is Ginger Lalumia, and I live at 84 Millie Court in the Riverwalk, which is adjacent to the space that's being designed for the park. It's very nice to say that the Riverwalk has been left in a natural state, but if you live in the Riverwalk, a natural state means that it's overgrown and unusable. There is a semi-sump in our vacant area, which would become part of that parkland that collects water and mosquitoes constantly, and no one has done anything about that. And I suspect that in the plan to turn this land over to the village, that those responsibilities are going to become the village's responsibilities and not the condo's responsibilities. I also have questions about a fence because I live in a private community and I don't want people walking their dogs on my grass, skateboarding on my grass. We have enough issues with hoodlums and teenagers, and I don't mean to lump them in one space, in that back parking lot area that's right off of South Street next to the pump station. Kids congregate there in the summer. They drink into the middle of the night. We've called the police several times. If this is going to happen, we need a fence, because that's going to be the only way that our property is going to remain private.
Ma'am, if you don't mind, when you mentioned a sump, are you talking about
It's
something
not a
that's
sump,
like
it's-
a natural swale, like sort of?
Yeah. Yes, please. It's a huge
Gotcha, okay.
dip in the, what would you call it? It's not.
So, Gene Christiansen, 78 Lily Court, right by this young lady. Michael Kelly's done a wonderful job developing the Riverwalk. You've all done a wonderful
Absolutely,
job.
yes.
We love living there. Okay, let's get that right off the
Yes,
bat.
absolutely.
We're in the end game now. So to set the record straight, the young lady who's representing GRB, I don't know why you haven't been over there if you're coming over here. I'm not knocking you, but
I was
there's
there earlier today.
so there's a whole walkway that's a paved walkway that runs along the entire Riverwalk, and 3 platforms that were built to look out on the river. So that's part of the development of the Riverwalk. It's not in a natural state, it's developed, which is fine. We then have the park on the right-hand side with the pump station at the beginning, and that was all pre-designed to be gifted to the village, which is great. Our biggest issue, as this young lady says, is that we have, the way Michael Kelly and the architects designed it was to drain off the entire Riverwalk area toward the river, but not in the river because the DEC won't allow that because it's runoff. Okay, so Mr. Kelly was laid out by architects these 3 or 4 sump areas that all then drain to the right toward that park. So the very last area, this sump area, is where it all stays and nothing goes down. And nobody can figure out why nothing goes down. He recently had people pierce down through to make like dry well cesspools, and instead of water going down, water came up. Because you're at the water table where the river is. So the natural solution you'd think is to run a small pipe underneath this bridge there and let it go into the river, which is where it's rainwater anyway. But the DEC won't allow it. So our concern is, we call it affectionately Zika Lake. All right, because that's really, the water just sits there, and truthfully, it's 1 million mosquitoes and gnats and things, and what we're told is Mr. Kelly can't release the property and go on to sell in the next development until this is resolved. Now, our concern is, if this is passed on to the village of Patchogue, is the village prepared to take this on and get rid of this standing water? Because it's really a huge issue if the DEC is involved. As we all know, the DEC, dealing with them could be a mess.
And the Riverwalk is beautiful, But this is, not only is it standing water, but it's not pretty. It's
It's a mess, and
horrendous.
things, you know, reeds have grown up through. Now, here's the thing. So here's this parkland that we're donating, right? And the land slopes down. So here you have people from the town just driving down South Street and deciding, hey, this is a great little private park. Let's have fun. People are kicking soccer balls, things like that. Now you got like a 2-year-old, and the 2-year-old walks over toward the reeds and falls in. And guess what? It's 4 feet deep. And what do we got then? We have a real nightmare on our hands. So this has to be completely addressed. And I love Michael Kelly and everything he's done. He's at wit's end with this thing. So we all have to figure this thing out, I think, together to resolve that. And I think that's really one of the main last issues.
And you know, and we really do want our privacy back. I mean,
right.
Well, I appreciate you sharing this. I'm not sure if other members of the board, first of all, I'm loath to go through private property to get access to anything else, but I was completely unaware that anything had been done
Absolutely.
at the river's edge. You mentioned some sort of...
No, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I ride my bike on it every ride my bike.
I didn't know this was done. I think it would be incumbent upon the members.
you know, but our residents do walk their dogs, you know, in that area and clean up after them. But when that becomes a park, we don't know that other people are going to do that, or going to have the respect for us to do that. And, you know, kids they play. That's great. You want them to play. But I would like to have a little protection from that noise and mess and, you know, and maintain our privacy. It is a private community, and we'd like to maintain it.
I was unaware that attempts have been made to create natural swales and drainage areas. There's many ways to accomplish that. I'm not saying that Mr. Kelly and those that are working with him are capable of doing this, but I was unaware that that had been accomplished and left that.
I'm sure the engineering firm, you know, laid that all out and said this was the way it was going to work, and it didn't work. It's just not working. It's not finished. So that's kind of the end game there. But you know, on another note, and it has nothing to do with this, and I apologize if this is not part of it, but we desperately need speed bumps like you've put on other blocks along West Avenue there now, because there's been landscaping built in that center island, and somebody is going to be killed trying to cross that street because people get up to 50 miles an hour, right?
Yes.
And you go like this, and you go like this, and this tiny dot of headlights is on you instantly because people floor it when they get there. And we need those big, longer speed bumps that you've put in several other areas in the village. We desperately need them.
That would be best addressed to the village board. That's their area, not ours. So you want to address that.
You're not the village board?
No.
Okay.
The
Oh, you don't represent the
village board
okay.
meets on
Okay.
second and
Okay.
fourth Monday.
Okay.
We understand your point. We just
Yeah. These are all growing pains, and they're wonderful growing pains, you know, because like I said, you've done an amazing job. The village is a wonderful place. I've lived in Sayville and Bayport for years and years, and so it's amazing what's been. That's why I'm here. So thank you so much for that.
Thanks. Well, we appreciate the input on everything that you've told us.
Anybody else from the Riverwalk that?
I just want clarification.
It's the Riverwalk show.
Hi. Maureen Dawson, 72 Millie in the Riverwalk. I just wanted clarification when you spoke about the serpentine walkway and the lights. Right now, is that the Riverwalk?
No, that's not the river. Again, my recollection was in testimony 5-6 years ago, was that sort of break in the property was designed for aesthetic purposes to sort of open it up, give it a look of some green space, and that was designed to be an inviting sort of access from West Avenue down to the Riverwalk. Maybe that's not the case.
So we don't know who owns it? Is it?
Oh, no, it's part of it. It's part of the property.
And that's going to stay part of our property?
I believe so, absolutely. Anyone else? Come on board. Sidewalks, I think,
I'm Rich Mucha from 82 Millie Court. When I bought the property, I thought that was going to be ours. That was going to be for us to enjoy it, for us to walk around us, not just the rest of the public coming from all over the place. Now, all of a sudden, this is going to be given, and it's going to be a park, and people are coming across and
We're talking about the river walk
whatever
itself.
we give it away now.
When this property first began being discussed, it was a long-standing process as we become more developed as a community, there's much less access to the waterfront, public access. Too much of it's private and it's gated off. This part of the Patchogue River has been forgotten about and neglected for so long, people forgot it was even there. So the idea was, let's clean this up, open it up, and let people enjoy, and most of the people that are enjoying it are you guys, because you live right there. You don't have to drive to it. A nice, whatever it ends up being designed, it was originally designed to be a boardwalk, some benches, maybe some soft lighting, and a place where you could actually walk and actually look and see the river, ducks, and so on and so forth.
So it will be a parking area for these people that are coming to visit?
We're not discussing the design of it at this point. It has not been designed for this particular project at this point in time. Parking and access for the public is something that's going to have to be thought about seriously with, of course, concern for the residents that live there. But the idea, no, it was never intended to be a private park. It was always intended to be for the use of the public.
It was part of the approvals years ago.
Because when they showed us the first renderings, you know, that was like, and you will have all this green area in the back, you know.
And you will, but it will be public space.
No, but I'm from 72 Millie. She's right on that, Regan. When we bought into that, that's how it was sold. That part of that river there was that part of that development. The builder misrepresented what he sold. You know.
That was never the intent.
That's how he sold it.
Yes, it's a rendered.
I mean, I'll be honest, and I can just speak for myself and my wife. We wouldn't have bought, you know.
Anyone else?
Yeah, basically, I just want to reinforce what my neighbors are saying. My name is Ricky Wilches, 82 Millie Court. Before we purchased and moved to Patchogue, we checked Huntington, Riverhead, Bay Shore. You know, we wanted that ambience of town and restaurants in Patchogue was excellent. Water view we couldn't afford in Huntington, but the Riverwalk and the name, it was a big selling point. The brochures, beautiful. You know, the walk is there. So basically, just to reinforce what my wife and my neighbor is saying, is that you purchase a house with a beautiful backyard, and then you receive a notice on the mail to say, you know, we're giving away the backyard. Somebody else is going to take care of it. That's one of the issues, which is the town. And in basis of what the town is doing, we feel very positive. However, the other issue is dealing with the town and the budget. Let's see, 5-7 years from now, are they going to have enough funds to take care of the park? As you know, we have in the federal government, very soon they might shut down the federal government. Who's not going to say that Patchogue one day is going to run out of money, it's not in the budget, and they say, you know, we're going to abandon the park, which is our backyard.
Well,
so that's the
speculate
issue.
anything, sir. This village, my business is over, I mean, it's like 120 years old. The village predates my business by 5 or 6 years. It's been around since 1893. I don't think that there's anything way to foresee right now that, you know, we're not going to have the village of Patchogue, and all of us are long gone here. And again, and I'm not trying to blow the village's horn, but I think in terms of park maintenance, there's funds being put right now into park rehabilitation and redesign. The village has always had a very good reputation, dating back to the 50s and 60s, for park creation, preservation, and maintenance, and I'm sure this parcel will be no different. But you make very valid points. Obviously, when you have a property like that, it needs to have money budgeted so it's able to be maintained, secure, and so on and so forth. And that will be the intent here, of course.
Yeah, and I don't think I feel like the neighbors that we're not really against a public park per se. Let's take a look at Central Park, which is an amazing place, unique in the world. It is public, it's beautiful, but it's maintained because of the unity of the neighborhoods, the city, the state, and whatever. So
well, this will still be your, literally, this will be your backyard. Those that live closest to the river, it's you're the ones that are gonna be there on a permanent basis, and obviously caring for your concerns has to be a paramount goal of whatever design comes forward here.
And my last concern will be a question on real estate taxes. And any type of fees, if the town is gonna be taking care of the park. Can you answer that question? Any issues on that?
That's beyond my pay scale, I gotta be honest with you. That would be better asked to the village board.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming down and speaking. Anybody else would like to speak? John?
No one else from Riverwalk wants to speak. John Bogack, 8 Knoxon Street. I was at the meeting when this was approved, so that's, I go far that far back. So I don't think what the residents fully grasp is what the deal was. You get this condo development with incentives, whatever they gave the condo development owner. But the big deal was you're gonna create this parkland and access to the river. Riverwalk didn't mean just for the private owners, it meant for all village residents. That was the big selling point. Riverwalk, so that any person in the village of Patchogue could go through this complex and get to the river, where there was to be whatever. I think that's sort of been lost, but you made the point about that. That's the point of Riverwalk. A couple months ago, I wandered onto this property to take photographs. So yes, there is, and I was astounded. There's a beautiful walkway. There are 4 at least. Not fishing stations with the overlooks. They're very well made. Yes, the river is right there, and you feel you're very much in the river. I went to the board afterwards to ask them, wow, what's going on? It's beautiful. How come no people aren't allowed in it? And their position was, this has come up tonight, we're not going to take control over this until the construction is done, and then we're going to get involved. So the residents should also understand it's a very ambitious plan to muralize the walls of the sewer plant to create a striking visual image that everyone will be able to see from the park as well as the residents. It's a very ambitious plan that's still in the works. So, and today as then, I feel this is a good plan for everybody in particular, but there's going to be some issues for the residents, I'm very sure, and they should go to the Board of Trustees, because if they think, for example, there's some kind of private walkway for the public, it ain't going to be happening. When I went through to get to the river, you know, I was inside the complex, and I'm sure that when the park comes, there's going to be at least one entrance from Railroad Avenue, and possibly a second one from South Street, where the village, if it completes some sidewalking, will create a new ribbon and access to this area. There is no parking. As I can see, people are going to have to hoof it into the park. And yes, I'd be concerned about the fence, security, lighting, vandalism, delinquency, parking. Every one of those concerns are valid, and these people behind me should organize and go to the Board of Trustees and express their concerns, because I think that they'll find a reception when they do and get some answers that they're not getting tonight. That Sump is kind of curious. When I went there, I said, gee, these are wonderful ponds. I took a picture of it 2 weeks ago, and I saw those ponds again, and I saw some constructions, and I saw a dozer there with sand. I thought maybe they were filling it in. I don't know what that Sump is, but as a taxpayer, I agree. I think taxpayers would be concerned about that expense being dumped on the village of Patchogue. That should be taken care of before we get this property as a village. I don't think it's a village's responsibility to remediate these problems well known to the owner of the condo complex. Other than that, let them transfer the land. Everyone wants that to happen, but keep in mind what these issues represent.
Thank you, Mr. Bogack. Would anyone else like to speak? I see a hand. Come forward.
Yes. With all due respect, I'm also a taxpayer. And we, in the Riverwalk, have 1 parking space each. 1. So while I get that this is supposed to be open land for everybody to enjoy unless you're helicoptering people in. I'd like to know where they're gonna park, because I already know they're gonna take my space when it's empty, or their space when it's empty, and we're gonna end up having no place to put our cars. Because that's what people do.
My understanding, first of all, that there was never any plan to allow parking for the public within the actual condominium complex. So I'm sure that will be prohibited. As far as whatever limited parking there would be for this Riverwalk, that is to be determined. I would echo Mr. Bojack's sentiments that however this process is going to be taken care of, there may indeed, and there probably will be. I can tell you, the first Riverwalk had public hearings galore, and the people came out in great numbers. I would assume that there will be some public hearings having to do with the design of this, and I encourage everyone to get involved and to do your best to shape this to the best of your abilities.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anyone else come on forward?
Hello, Regan.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Dawn Graziano, 70 Barley Lane. One of the reasons why I moved from Brooklyn and landed up in Patchogue Village was for a better quality of life. And I found it here. And I'm a little afraid that when you open up that area to the public, it's opening up a can of worms. Currently now, Live at 5 brings droves upon droves of people coming from the Long Island Railroad to Main Street, which is great for business, great for the village. The village is on the map. The problem is when they go home and they're drunk and they're stumbling and they're fighting in front of my house and they're breaking bottles. That's not better quality of life for me. I'm afraid when the area becomes public, not only will it be an impact for the community, but it will become the Patchogue that it used to be. With when I want to walk my dog, another Riverwalk 5:30 in the morning, because I have to walk them early to get to work, I will be afraid. I will be afraid of people laying there, drunk. I'll be afraid of my dog walking on broken glass. And I think that although everybody's intent is for Patchogue to grow and become more beautified and to everybody's real estate to go up and it'd be a great place to live, there's a lot of room for progress, and I don't think a public park where everybody can walk through everybody's yards to go to is the answer.
You make valid points. Obviously, security, anytime a public park or space is being designed and introduced, security, both in terms of manpower, as it were, and lighting and fencing and all these other issues have to be thought about thoroughly. I don't think anyone, certainly never, there's not going to be any intent for people to wander through people's property to get to the park. That's not going to be the way it's going to be taken care of. But again, when the time comes to do the nitty-gritty design of this, and I assume I would have to assume there's going to be an opportunity for public input. If not, it would not be proper. And that would be the time to come forward and make sure you ask all of these questions to make sure that this gets taken care of the right way.
Currently with Live at 5, right by the pump station, there's 2 and 3 rows of cars and people that park there for Live at 5, as well as the subway owners complain that everybody's taking their customers' parking spaces. There have been people in my parking space, and I have a house in Pennsylvania, go away often on the weekend, that somebody's in my spot as well. And cars are left there for the whole night. I mean, thank God people aren't driving home under the influence, but that's affecting the community.
Well, what I would suggest vis-a-vis Live at 5, which has sort of exploded in popularity. I read in the paper recently that the crowds have reached record levels. Which we talked about before, the Greater Patchogue Chamber of Commerce oversees and runs and organizes the Alive, I think it's Alive After 5 or whatever it's called. It's over for the year, so obviously this is the time when they start to sit down and say, well, what do we need to change, what needs to be improved. David Kennedy is the executive director. He's always open for comments from the public. The chamber is open business hours on 15 North Ocean Avenue. I would encourage anybody that has any questions and concerns about Alive at 5 to address them to the chamber. They need to know that sort of thing as they plan for what to do next year.
And your sole purpose is just for it to be a park? There's no other intentions for that property?
None whatsoever. It's not navigable, although you could probably get a kayak in there. But no boats are going to go in there. There's going to be no business. It's just, the sense has long been that it's a crying shame that the river exists and has been forgotten and polluted and littered. And wouldn't it be nice to clear it out, open it up so that people could actually say, well, you know what, there's a mallard duck, there's a river, there's fish. There are fish in there, actually. No, just a park, that's all.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else like to speak about this project at this time? Hearing none, would the applicant like to respond to any of this at this time?
Yes, I would, thank you. So as I stated earlier at the very inception of this, we were here with respect to the requirement of this board with respect to the subdivision so that the pump station is a separate parcel and that they could be separately deeded to the village, which is what the village's intention was and the requirement of us at the time. So I had, for the record, I did send notices out, and we didn't rest on the village's mere notice. We added a paragraph that if anyone had any questions with respect to the application, to please feel free to call me, and my name was on the bottom of the letter with my direct number at my office. And I did not hear any of these concerns, and I apologize, or I would have been so happy to address them with you prior to
That was in the certified mail? We didn't.
It was, it's at the bottom of the letter.
You know, most of us didn't get a letter.
Wait, we have a copy.
But I did get a letter, but I didn't have a clue what this was about. I didn't know what to ask.
Yes, exactly.
Just also for the record, the design of the sanitary and the runoff and discharge, that all occurred, prior applications before this board in the site plan review, as well as before the village board with respect to the change of zone. So this is all a fully, developed application, a fully developed project. It's built, it is out there. I stated at the beginning the completion rates of the project. At this point, with respect to some issues that I was not aware of, with respect to the drainage, if that's something that there is a concern about, that drainage isn't occurring properly, I could take that to the applicant and come back to you and report on that issue.
Wow.
I'm also happy to answer the questions that were raised with respect to fencing. The sump as being reported, or a retention basin. Other questions with respect to access, I'm happy to respond to that as well. But in terms of the intention, this was always an intention to be a public park. So I think that you made that clear for the record. So if there's other issues that I'm forgetting at this point, other than the access, the drainage, the retention, and the fence issue, I'm happy to report back to you on those three issues.
A lot of very good points have been raised tonight that need to be taken into consideration, and I would think that members of this board need to familiarize themselves with what's been done at the west end of that property, because I wasn't aware that anything had been done. So I think at this...
I'd also like clarification as to who's responsible for the improvements to the proposed park area.
That goes without saying. We need to know where we're going with that, clearly.
I will report back to you on that. I know the answer is that once it's dedicated, that it is the village's maintenance responsibility going forward.
At this point in time, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn this hearing to a later date. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. So approved. Thank you.
Chairman, just for the record, when you say adjourn to a later date, does that mean to the October meeting?
To the October meeting, the fourth Tuesday, I see, for the holidays, fourth Tuesday in October. 7:30 p.m. will be back on the calendar again, and I believe there's a work session in October. It would be the third Monday of the month. That would be an opportunity to come down and share in an informal setting any progress.
Carol, can I call you tomorrow just to go over those dates? Okay. appreciate it.
Thank you all who came down tonight and gave us your input. That's how we get things done, and we appreciate it very much. If